Alright guys, today we're going to talk about the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Alright, so today's video is going to cover three main areas. Number one is of course the exterior, number two is actually the interior, and the third one, the final one, which I think is actually quite important, is all about the driving experience. Alright, so first thing, let's start off with the exterior. Now as you can see from the car itself, it's a very beautiful design, even though it was launched somewhere back in 2022, which makes that about 2 years ago. You know, generally cars that are 2 years ago might not look as fresh today, but this guy here has actually managed to stay very fresh. I particularly like the front as well as the rear headlights, but I won't talk too much about the design because I think that's really subjective. You can take a look at the car yourself and let me know what you think. One thing that I do want to highlight though is that this vehicle, the Ioniq 5, is actually super wide, and you might look at it and think it's a hatchback, but I was very lucky. I was parking beside a couple of actual hatchbacks the other day. So you can see we have this, I can't remember what's the name, like Kia Picanto, I think it's from very long ago. So we have that on the far left. We also have an X50. We also have a Perodua Alza on the right. So you can see that this guy here is the largest of them all. And driving it around, you definitely tend to notice it a little bit. But yeah, that's just in terms of the size. It's not really a small hatchback. It's super spacious on the inside, which we'll talk about right now. Alright, so in terms of the interior, now I do want to highlight that there are a couple of things that I liked and a couple of things that I did not like. Now I like the fact that it's very airy. The entire colorway is in white. So I actually brought a couple of my friends to check that out, and the first thing that they noticed is that they felt that it was like a sofa in their living room. So it's that kind of comfort levels that you can expect from the Ioniq 5. Now if you just look at the entire place itself, you notice that we do have a couple of ambient lights all around. The materials feels very nice to touch. I think they are like some eco leather kind of materials that are being used, and of course it does feel quite comfortable. I also like the way that they've designed a lot of things to be customizable. For instance, the middle armrest, you can actually push it front and back to adjust that. I also like the fact that we do have this very nice steering with no gap in the middle, so you can actually move your hands around and drive very comfortably. And last but not least, the rear space is actually extremely massive, and you do have a lot of headroom on the top as well. So I'm 175 cm, and as you can see from the car itself, I have a ton of space. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention, what I really like about this entire dashboard is that there are quite a fair bit of buttons and shortcuts that you can access directly, just by pressing on here. Now if you move on to the steering wheel, again we have a couple of buttons on the left and right section. Now these are not touch sensors, these are actually real buttons, physical buttons. So just in terms of power outlets, we do have a couple of outlets here. This is 180 watt. You also have your USB-A, another USB-A on the left as well as the right. This is a wireless charging pad. This is actually all great, but today we are using a lot of Type-C cables, but this is all Type-A. So good that we have a lot of ports over here, but not so great because we do not have those latest Type-C cables. Alright, now onto the things that I did not really like. Now first up is obviously the gear changer. I'm not really fond of like twisting it when you're just changing the gear. So this is particularly, I would say, challenging when you're trying to move into a tight space. Say for example, you want to do a 3-point turn. You need to turn the knob a couple of times, turn the steering wheel, and again turn the knob a couple of times. And that makes it a little bit, it's not my favorite, I would say. Now the second thing that I did not like is actually in terms of the display. I felt that it could be a little bit larger because there's a lot of useful things on the display. You have your side cameras, you have a lot of details, you have your sensors and all that. But what I noticed is that the steering wheel is positioned, it's quite blocking the display. So on certain times, I wasn't able to see the display very clearly. That's in terms of the interior. Personally, I think you should go and check it out in the store itself. Drive it around to really feel how it feels on the inside to say whether it's comfortable enough for you. Now, last but not least, the final part, let's talk about the driving experience. Now, I know a lot of you are already very familiar. EV cars are fast. They have the instant torque because it's electric powered. And I don't want to talk about just the car being fast. I want to highlight one thing here, and that's actually it has a couple of modes. You have your eco, you have your normal, and then you have your sport mode. So for eco mode, what I was really surprised is, again, with a couple of friends in the car, they also came up with the same feedback, is that it's actually very smooth. So on some electric vehicles, you might find it a bit jarring whenever you try and accelerate and brake, but for the Hyundai Ioniq 5, during the eco mode, it actually drove really extremely well. You won't really feel like the car is pulling away or is braking too abruptly. It's just a very comfortable experience, and this is something that I really noticed when driving the Ioniq 5. The refinement levels, how it drives on the road is just so comfortable, and you have a lot of confidence in it. Now obviously if you put it into normal or into sport mode, it just picks up extremely fast. It does the 0 to 100 in 5.2 in case you're wondering about that, but it's really not about drag racing every day, but just about the everyday driving experience, which I did manage to cover about 400 kilometers over that 4 days. where was I going? But yeah, so the driving experience is actually very good on this guy. Now, one thing that I did not really like, so again, this video is going to be a couple of stuff that I like and did not like, is in terms of the high speeds as well as the cornering. Now again, I know this is not a sports car, but when I was cornering, I felt that it might oversteer a little bit. And in terms of the high speeds, I managed to hit 166 km/h, and that was my highest speed, and I did not really feel particularly confident at that kind of speeds. It felt a bit like the car was floating. Again, that's my personal experience. You might want to try that out, but if you're driving like, under the speed limit here in Malaysia, under 110 or maybe about 120, 130, you should feel completely fine. Alright, so another thing that I want to talk about the driving experience is of course in terms of the charging and all that. Now again, naturally it depends on where you charge, you will get different kinds of speeds. I would like to put this similar to my smartphone reviews, where every smartphone has a different fast charge. Some are just faster than others. So this guy here, the Ioniq 5, is actually really quick. And I was actually nearby Wisma UOA, where I used their charger, and within 18 minutes I was able to charge from 34% to 82%. Yeah, it's 18 minutes. So again, the charges for fast charging really depends on where you charge your car, so you might want to check that out. I'm not here to talk about whether ICE vehicles or EVs are more efficient in terms of your costing, but yeah, you could charge up the car fairly quickly, and I think that's the most important part. So yeah, overall that's just my 4 to 5 day experience with the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Again, this is not a full review. We can only cover so much in that 4/5 days. So this is what I want to share with y'all. If you have any feedback or any comments on how I can enjoy an EV even better, feel free to let me know. For now, I'm actually really excited as to where the EV space is heading. This is an excellent car, by the way. Again, you should really try it out, because I brought a couple of friends as well to try it out for the first time, and all of them were really like mind blown. So that's it for today's video. Thank you for sticking with me all the way to the end. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and see you all in the next one. Take care and stay safe. Bye bye.